So I watched the Trump cabinet meeting just so that you don't have to. And one thing that I took away from it, watching it, is something interesting that Vice President JD Vance said at the beginning. And I'll paraphrase it here, but he said something along the lines that under the Biden administration, families lost $3,000. Under Trump, they gained $1,000. He claimed that Democrats broke affordability. We're fixing it. I just made a video that uploaded right before this one that really talks about how to spot fear-based politics. This is a prime example just after I made that video. And so here's the question I want us all to consider for a second. Is affordability a quote unquote scam, or is it really a lived reality for working families? See, affordability is like oxygen. You really don't notice it until it's gone. And once it's gone, when costs are rising faster than wages, families feel like they're gasping for air. And that's real. I've heard it when I ran for office, both in 2022 and 2024. The number one concern of people, regardless whether they're Democrat, Republican, Independent, don't vote, do vote, whatever, is affordability. It's a real concern. And I will make plenty of videos that detail the numbers of that. This video is really talking about the politics of it and how we talk about it. Now, what Vance claimed, the $3,000 loss under Biden, $1,000 gain under Trump. What he's really trying to do here is assign blame. See, he tries to link housing affordability to immigration. He's done this over and over again. He tries to link food prices to the green scams that he thinks is all some Democratic ploy to make everything more expensive. See, Democrats have to buy things too. We don't want things to be more expensive. And then he made a claim. 2026 will be the year the economy really takes off. Of course, it's always the next year that something great will happen. Why isn't it happening already? They've been in power for a while now. And I'll just take a moment to say, when President Obama inherited the 2008 financial crisis, it took a little bit of time, but they focused and spoke about what was actually being done to address the problem, not just saying, next year will be great for everyone. So reality check, some data, some just spotlights of data that I'll talk about here just for a minute. But right now, home buyers need about $121,000 of annual income to afford a typical home. The average income for a person is somewhere around $50,000 to $80,000. Housing is unaffordable, yet in our country, we have more empty homes than we have homeless people. Groceries. Bills are about 18% higher compared to January 2022. And shrinkflation is also going on and harder to document. This is all happening in a calendar year, 2025, where Trump has been in power since January 20th, where the value of our dollar has also decreased by 10%. So when you wake up in the morning and have that coffee that has grown somewhere else in the world, that was 10% more expensive for you. Wages versus inflation. Real wages only grew by about 12% from 2006 to 2025, despite nominal wages rising 78.7%. What does that mean? There's a real difference between what people are experiencing in purchasing power and what their actual numbers are looking like. That's why you have to be really careful when politicians make overly simplified arguments like JD Vance made. It's hardly ever real. It's almost always marketing in some way, shape, or form. In fact, I went to try to find a source for his information, and there aren't any. There literally are not any sources for the numbers that he cited. They're just talking points. It's just marketing. Debt reliance. Families increasingly use their credit cards or buy now and pay later to cover basic necessities, not just nice to haves. That speaks to an affordability crisis, and it is real. Finally, polling. The majority of voters support at least $25 minimum wage, showing affordability is seen as a wage issue, not just prices. It's income and costs all together. So I think it's all fair to say that this particular administration likes to talk a big game, and they really don't follow it up with a whole lot of actions. And this channel is all about understanding not what people are really saying, but what they're actually doing. And it's also fair to say that politicians for a generation now has used affordability like a football. They like to put the blame back and forth, but for families, it's more like a leaky roof. No matter who's in charge, you're still getting wet. This is something we have been voting for change for every election in my adulthood, and affordability in the economy being a little more fair is that change that most people want to see. But yet it never seems to get any better. Yet it's interesting that this particular administration, both Trump and Vance, over and over and over again, frame affordability as the Democrats' fault. And Democrats like me argue that the Republicans are making it worse. When I argue that in the videos I already made, I point to specific policies that they're doing to make it worse. And I never hear Republicans make an actual case of what Biden did or what Harris did or what specific policy objective happened to make prices worse. And I think that's an important distinction for voters to understand. When politicians can sit there, look at you in the eye and tell you what mechanism is being used for what outcome, That's a powerful argument. When they just make up numbers on the spot and can't even source the data or tell you how it's linked, that is a red flag moment. And it's happening each and every day with this administration. So here is what I want to use the rest of this video for. This channel, I also want to move into really teaching people a bit more about systems thinking, systems framework, and using frameworks. Frameworks are such a useful tool in understanding what is really going on, because as I said over and over again, whether it's our economic system, political system, or a system in general, really what we're talking about are human beings making decisions that impact all of us. And the rules that govern those decisions can make things act in a certain way that are hard to understand because it's inherently human nature related. So frameworks can help us simplify it down enough. It will never be 100% comprehensive. By it, I mean a framework will never be 100% comprehensive, but they should be comprehensive enough, and they provide us a lens to make sure we look through so we don't miss any big ideas. Frameworks are about getting the big ideas right. So here's a framework for affordability. You can break affordability down into really 4 major areas that people are concerned about. One, you can just look at housing, supply and demand of housing. Where is supply? Where is demand? Who's taking it? Are illegal immigrants really to blame when we have more empty houses than we have homeless people? Or is it historic policy decisions that we made to centralize certain industries or offshore certain industries? I'll let you decide. Wage growth versus inflation, or the amount of money people are actually receiving coming in real purchasing power terms. And I would argue not just inflation, but currency depreciation as well. It gets complicated, but just track how much people are actually taking in and what they're able to buy for it. The third one, the rising and exploding costs. And just 2 to include in this pillar is healthcare and childcare. Some of the most expensive costs that people have nowadays. And with the repeal of the Affordable Care Act subsidies, healthcare is about to be a lot more expensive for a lot more people. And it's going to be more expensive for more people who don't have those plans because the overall market will increase in price. The fourth way to understand affordability is debt reliance. How much debt do people have for necessities? That's a really simple 4-part framework. And I'm not even saying this is the best framework ever, but this will help us when you hear politicians like JD Vance spout off stats that you can't source back to any real data. If you want to make up your own minds, a simple framework like this can really help you see through the noise and see the signal that's important for understanding. And oh, by the way, if you're sitting here saying, well, that sounds great, Chris, but at the end of the day, I don't want to turn myself into a policy researcher. I get it. It's boring. But here's the great news. We have AI-enabled tools that you can ask the AI tool to help you make the framework and then help do the research to just understand what the actual data is. And here's the thing. When you prompt AI to help you make frameworks, always ask it to be analytically rigorous, to source back to primary documents. That will help the AI also be more honest, because there's a lot of, let's just say, particularly right-wing faux academia out there that AI could bring in. So AI is not always going to be right. But when you ask it to be analytically rigorous, ask it to be peer-reviewed, ask it to use primary documents whenever possible, if you put that in your prompt, you'll get a whole lot better results. So at the end of the day, my call to action here is really simple. I want everyone to realize affordability isn't a scam. It's a real living issue that people are facing every single day in our country. And it doesn't have to be, but it was made to be that way by decisions that were made for decades leading into this. I would invite you all, if you're listening to this video, to really share your own affordability stories. How much of a struggle is it? Email us. Put it in the comment below. What has been the latest struggle? What is it like for you right now? It's definitely getting harder and harder for people. And I think our pride as Americans and how individualistic we are sometimes stops us from sharing what might feel vulnerable. It doesn't feel great to share that we don't have enough to go around, but it's okay. The more of us that do share, the more that we will realize we're all in this together. That is the prerequisite for building the sort of political movement to actually tackling the problem and stop using this blame game or the football of affordability like it has been used for decades. Finally, I just want to say affordability is, to me, is the thermostat of democracy. If families can't keep warm, if they can't keep their children fed, then the entire system of our democratic process gets really scary. Scarcity mindset sets in. It becomes very much us versus them all the time. Yet, when prosperity is largely shared, when affordability isn't as much of a concern, when people feel like an honest day work leads to an honest day pay, then the things that we can do with that are profound. The things we have done with it are profound. So when you talk to your friends, when you talk to your neighbors, reach out to me, email, comments, talk about the affordability crisis. It's not going away. It's only getting harder to solve. And the more that we play this political football game or the blame game that doesn't actually do anything to address real American needs, the harder it will be to solve. That's why democracy is not a spectator sport. We need everyone to start engaging every day. feel free to use the AI tools. Feel free to use the tools out there to make it easier to engage, but please engage. Thank you. If you haven't yet, please click like on this video, drop a comment below, and click that subscribe button. It'll help the YouTube algorithm make sure that these videos are getting into your feed. Thank you.